You want to be able to get the information out there. You have a centurion in your community, somebody who has attained the age of 100. You want to give them at least some recognition. Feel free to share those things as well. Someone within the community may have been successful at sports or anything. Feel free to also send us that information so we can all join with you and all of Tobago to celebrate your victories. So we want to encourage you this evening as we head into the program. We be mindful and remember that it's a family program. Many persons have their children looking on, and the comments, I ask for persons to always keep your comments respectful. Let's keep your comments constructive and respect each other's opinions as we share in the conversation this evening. Last week, as indicated, we have quite a program lined up for you tonight, and so much has been happening. It sometimes puts us in a position where we have to pick and choose what are the issues that we would want to ventilate. So I would want to introduce my guest with me in studio tonight, who we're going to be taking it from both ends, left and right. So no one will get away. Left hook, right hook, uppercut, everything. And as we push forward this evening. So join me this evening as we welcome Assemblyman Kelvon Morris, the minority leader in the House. Welcome, sir.
Pleasant good evening, Marilyn. Pleasant good evening to all our viewers, listeners across Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago, and the diaspora.
Yes. As usual, always a pleasure to have you. I want to say good evening to the minority councillor tonight, who in reverse now, she's the one out on the field still working and conducting various aspects of the business of the Minority Report and the minority by extension. I want to also say good evening to Senator Lawrence Hislop, who is not with us this evening as well in studio. Again, about the business, the official business. So a very hard working team participating always here on the Minority Report. And we do it because we love what we do and we see it as a responsibility to provide you, the listening public and the viewing public, with as much information that is factual as possible and that can be proven. As Minority Council often say, we work with our receipts. Before we get into our conversation this evening, however, I want us to just reflect a bit. I want us to ponder on a phrase that says to us, we must not forget. We must not forget what, as an island, we have gone through that has brought us to this point, June the 18th, 2024. We must not forget having elected a group of individuals who convinced all of Tobago that they could fix it. We must not forget how much they have destroyed it. We must not forget the promises. We must not forget the disrespect. And so this evening, I'll ask the director just to take us through a few things that we must not forget. Mr. Director. Slight technical difficulties, but we are getting it sorted out. We're ready.
We met people who in the 70s, 60-something, retire a long time, arthritis knocking out the knee and holding on, and we don't want to put young people there. And I made it a very firm position. When your contract up, go home and mind grandbaby.
there are plenty people out here who unwashed and illiterate and have all the believing lies. And when I say unwashed, I mean they ain't baptized, they ain't no part of God in them, they ain't no part of the Spirit in them. They're out here doing evil. They're waking up every morning to try and make my life and your life a living hell. Unwashed and illiterate.
So folks, we that was just a sneak peek, a preview of some of the atrocities committed against Tobago and Tobagonians, some of the misrepresentation, some of the disrespect that has been meted out. I would say it now, and I'm putting them on notice that we have not forgotten Audio Gate, and we're going to be revisiting that traumatic period that we went through as well as Tobago, when we saw the person that was elected to lead this island sit and plot against Tobagonians to do wickedness and fraud, something illegal against Tobagonians. Minority Leader, some of the things that we must not forget. What do you think about this? And this is just the tip.
Well, as you said, Marlon, and I think it is important we continue to have the discussions, we continue to remind Tobagonians of the atrocity. And one of the things I remember that we ought not forget is the promise to this administration made about fixing Tobago. And when you look at what has transpired since then, since that promise, what you have actually had was really the opposite, which is them really destroying Tobago. And they started by destroying Tobago contract workers. You would recall very early, this administration attacked some key offices and key units. They would have dealt with the people at the monitor and evaluation unit down at DIQU, down at infrastructure, and then they moved across to the office of the chief secretary, and we remember how they unceremoniously removed those folks there without justification, any reasoning. And then we were told about a restructuring of CPEP, only to realize that the only restructuring that took place is them actually sending home innocent Tobagonians. And what was those Tobagonians' only fault? And their fault was that this administration identified them as supporters of the PNM, and therefore they left to no stone unturned in treating and in victimizing and ensuring that they took bread out of the mouths of these people. And then we saw them attack the contractors. Some of our most prominent contractors were sidelined. They were called corrupt. They were called all manner of evil. And up to this day, this administration has been unable to prove with any clear evidence any form of corruption against these people. And I'm saying I will know if there, as I always say, if there's evidence to demonstrate, to prove that persons misbehave themselves, whether contractors or otherwise, and then bring it forward and then take it to the relevant authorities and let the chips fall where they may. But until such time, you cannot be sidelining Tobagonians who have demonstrated the ability to do the jobs that you are now outsourcing to persons outside of Tobago. And so we saw them completely annihilate the construction sector and bring it to a resounding halt. And up to this day, that would have led to about 1,000 Tobagonians being put on the breadline, because when you do the analysis across these construction firms, they were hiring almost over 1,200 Tobagonians. So about 200 might have found their way back into the system. But that means you have a whole 1,000 Tobagonians with families that depend on them still out in the cold. And that has been those hungry bellies on their hunger and their frustration and their cries smacked on Farley and his administration, because they would have deliberately caused these people by their wicked policies to be without food. And then you came down, as you recall, to the audio gate, which is a most scandalous occurrence, where you have people who you were entrusted with your public business plotting, trying to create a scenario where they will utilize public funds by way of hiring people, giving them exorbitant pay salaries for jobs, menial jobs, and we've seen it being displayed. We were able to prove where one person in the office of the Deputy Chief Secretary was paid over $15,000, and that person had little to no qualification. And if you go through the length and breadth of the Tobago House of Assembly, you would see people being paid to do absolutely nothing. And that was what AudioGate was, where they handpicked persons to come online, as I'm sure some of them are right now, to come to do propaganda. And they are being paid by public funds, and that is wrong. That is a crime. And I am calling on the authorities to say what is going on with that investigation, because we know we saw a period of acceleration of a lot of activities, and then it went cold. So I am calling on the Integrity Commission, especially to tell us if they have completed that investigation into AudioGate and what is their findings. And that is something that we need to hear more about from the authorities. It cannot be that these people were so openly
caught red-handed, plotting
to misuse public funds, and they continue to go scotch-free. And then you continue to see the wastage, the 4 roads. And I continue to say, if that is not the height of corruption and squandermania, I don't know what is, because here we were told that you are going to build 4 roads as emergency
works.
Then you found the contractors that had absolutely no affiliation with the Tobago House of Assembly. These contractors all of a sudden found out that you had emergency roads. And what Tobagonians need to understand is that in giving out those roads, 2 of those roads were given out to a contractor who actually refused the work. So even then, those roads were secretly given away to a contractor by the name of Namalco. And that contractor got that controversial road down at Storby, and also the road at Dutch Fort. But for some reason, yet to be known, this contractor suddenly gave up the work. And then a contractor from outside Tobago, where did they find Namalco? What is the relationship with Namalco and the Secretary of Infrastructure and the Chief Secretary? But yet they gave it up. And then they found other contractors, one of them a roofing contractor with no previous experience in road paving. In fact, the company was opened during the COVID and only had about 2 years operating as a company. Yet that company was awarded $54 million to build a road in Tobago's most eco-sensitive area, which is Pigeon Point. No experience, which is the Pigeon Point area. And you'll hear these same people, when there are opportunities for hotel development, telling you about the environment and the environment and the environment. But yet, this administration handpicked and spirited away $54 million to an unknown contractor to go and build a road in one of Tobago's most eco-sensitive area. If that isn't callousness, if that isn't carelessness, if that isn't recklessness, if that isn't corruption, I don't know what is.
And you remember, Minority Leader, what was the event? What was upcoming that the roads were so critical that they had to be given out, and in one of the instances, in a 3-day period. Remember what was the event coming up?
So that event, we were told, wasn't it Carnival?
Carnival.
So, and that was in 2022. And I want people to understand. So those roads were awarded in October of somewhere around October 2022. And yes, we saw them as I said, that have to be Guinness Book of World Record for the fastest
procurement
process ever.
Yeah.
Where in one day you were told submit a quotation. Quotation comes in, and by the next day you get a letter of award. So who else was given that opportunity to quote? When was the bids evaluated?
Who did the evaluation?
And who did the evaluation?
Yeah.
And up to now, the other thing, Tobago, you need to understand that in the division of infrastructure, you have a rogue secretary who believes he answers to no one. And it appears to me that he has given them instructions not to even answer to the law.
Yeah.
Because based on the Freedom of Information Act, I, as minority leader, would have requested certain information. And up to this day, even with pre-action protocol letters at the feet of this this Secretary of Infrastructure, he has refused to answer information that should be public information, but yet have the gall to come on his personal page, taking confidential government information and placing it for his personal benefit. And that too, I would be writing to the Integrity Commission as to see if any law is being broken by this lawless, rogue secretary, utilizing his office to advance again his personal business and interest. Because that also was discussed in the audio gate, where they were talking about this chief secretary said he has information and he just needs an avenue. He needs some distribution channels. But this lawless secretary don't even care to use a fake profile or some. He is coming on his personal page, putting public information, and that to me cannot or ought not be right.
And minority leader, I want to remind the public of something as well. Again, because we always like to ensure persons that when we provide information, it is factual. For those who may still have some conflict about the audio gate, I want to remind the public that the chief secretary admitted that it was him. I want to put that out there. The chief secretary admitted, he said yes, but the discussion was so and so and so and so.
In no uncertain term, what the chief secretary attempted to do is play smart with foolishness, and he went on to say they thought about it, but then they went home and then they decided against it. But then the evidence is clear as day, because you're seeing both in various divisions where this administration, they have hired persons, paying them exorbitant monies to do absolutely nothing. In the office of the deputy chief secretary, I was able to produce a list of persons who were paid up to $30,000. And when you ask what is their job description, what have you done, what have you produced, absolutely nothing. In that division alone was over $2 million were being spent in salaries.
But remember, that $2 million as well was for a building
and then
vacant in Trinidad.
To add to that, they also rented a vacant building. And I want to remind Tobagonians, because we basically rejected a political leader because we had something called a zipline controversy. And you know what that zipline, the overall cost of that zipline? About $3 million. And I'm saying public funds, whether $3 million or $10 million, if you believe it was misused, you have all right to be upset. But you can't be upset for what you believe was $3 million. But we rented a building for a whole entire year and a half.
Empty.
And paid exorbitant rental fees, almost $2 million, for a building that not one Tobagonian was able to step foot in. An empty building in Trinidad, and you're hearing this administration coming to you every month telling you they don't have no money. But yet, this said administration rented a building in Trinidad where not one person stepped foot. An empty building, they paid over $2 million. So if we could vex with whoever for a zip line, then this administration deserves to be fired the same way for that empty building that they told Tobagonians would have been to their benefit, both Tobagonians residing in Trinidad and Tobagonians who are going Trinidad to do business. So they have failed. This administration is an administration of failure. Most of the things that they said they would do, they have failed to do it. And by that measure, this administration deserves to be fired. Just as how the chief secretary fired himself.
Exactly, from the position.
So if it's one good thing the chief secretary has
we have to applaud him on that.
The chief secretary has realized that he has failed as a secretary of finance. And in doing the reshuffle, at least he had good conscience to fire himself.
So minority leader, I will toss the ball and you will hit it. Remember the audit? So, remember they said that 1,400 was corrupt, a square foot.
So, and up to this day, they have not been able to justify, because Tobago, again, I am just having the layman conversation with you. And if you support these people, I'm also having the conversation with you, because if you're a QTP person, you're supporting QTP, and if they come to you and tell you, here what? You see them people over, so they are corrupt, because here what? They were paying a man $1,400 for bitumen.
Great, right.
And I have conducted an audit, and we have found that $1,400 a ton for bitumen is too high. That is my findings.
Right.
But yet, you turn around, even after coming up with those findings, and your people turn around, you QTP people on the line, your people turn around and find, handpick some people and say they are also conducting road paving using the same bitumen. And you know how much your people decide to pay the people them? So your people said 1,400 was corrupt. But you know how much they decide to pay for the same bitumen?
Tell me.
$2,700 a ton for the same bitumen that they told you was corrupt at 1,400, which is which is really double the amount. So it therefore means if we were doing one road at 50 meters, they are now doing half a road. And if we were doing two roads, they could only now do one road, because they are actually paying double. So it means that road down at Strawberry Local Road, we could have done two of that.
Yes.
If we had continued with the model that was established, because at least at $1,400 a ton, you were able to get more with less.
Yeah. And they try to justify this.
As I continue to say, because I don't know about these things, and I'm not going to separate. If you say that is corrupt, I'm not going to argue with you. So if you're saying $1,400 is corrupt, what they were paying before is corrupt, then it means that $2,700 a ton, you are doubly corrupt. You are twice times corrupt. And you should hang your head in shame.
What the minority leader, and I mean, we have so much to remember. And I want to touch back a bit. We spoke of the spending at the office of the Deputy Chief Secretary, where to date we do see what that money went into. Almost 9 million in total.
So and this is
they shut it down.
I don't know if Tobagonians recognize that the Chief Secretary has admitted by the last reshuffle that what they were doing had actually failed. Because he shut down the Deputy Chief Secretary, so that was a failure. He fired himself as Secretary of Finance, so he admitted he was a failure. He fired the Deputy Chief Secretary and sent her back just to do health. So he admitted that she was
responsibilities.
So he admitted that she too was a failure. He fired the Secretary of ComDev. So he admitted that he also was a failure. Then he sent help over by tourism because he admitted that the Secretary of Tourism is a failure. And what you have is a bunch of failures all across the board. Look at what is, and I don't want to get into the main topic as yet.
Yeah,
because we still remember
that. We still remember it.
Yeah, we still remember it.
Yeah, and these are things we cannot neglect.
But remember when they told us, when the same Secretary of Tourism told us that the carnival budget would have been about $17 million. Then she came down to 12 million. And then she submitted to us a final budgetary report that said they spent about 7 million. Yeah. You remember that?
Yes, I remember.
And when we asked her, what is the difference? What has accounted for the difference has accounted for the difference between the 12 million and the 7 million? Then she telling me I can't count. But I know if you said that you spent 12 million and then you submitted a report with 7 million, then it means that 5 million missing. And the question we were asking, and a question I believe the Auditor General will be asking, is where the $5 million went.
Exactly.
Where the $5 million gone?
Where is it?
And up to this day, the Secretary has failed to account for that $5 million difference in the budgetary allocation for Carnival. And perhaps that is why, up to this day, all the other festivals are struggling. And this is why we were saying that there ought to have been a clear forensic audit as to see what would have accounted for the discrepancy between what the Secretary said that they spent as the budget, 12 million, as opposed to what she reported that they spent, the 7 million.
And I want to again put this out there. Everything that we are speaking about here, we've ventilated on the program, we've presented the facts, we've presented the documents. Some of these things, this information, you can go back to the house, the different sittings, and you will hear with your own ears and see with your own eyes the responses that came forth from the various secretaries that validates the information. And it is as if we have gotten to a place where they don't even care again. They don't even care again about what they're doing. Remember, Minority Leader, when Secretary Pollard said he's going to build 1,000 homes?
Well, I remember when the Councillor Benoit, in her response to that first budget debate, asked, because we looked at the figures, there was no allocation.
From a sensible standpoint.
Yeah, so, and it's just common sense. If you're saying you're going to build 1,000 homes, yet you have not allocated any money to build the homes, then how are you building it? And that was the rational, reasonable question to ask. And when that question was asked, this man simply said, watch me work. And to date, we are watching him work, but more what we are seeing is watching him fly. Because he's going on OJT programs. He's going to learn to work. I think we need to send him to this program that we, the young people have in World of Work.
Exactly.
So they need to send him to learn to work.
Get some training.
Some training. Because up to this point in time, we have not seen any serious housing program be launched or implemented. And that is 2 years coming after. And I want to warn Tobagonians, because we know they're going into an election year. This is their last opportunity to impress you. So I expect that, yes, they will pull out all stops to impress you. So we should not be surprised. But we have watched them for the last 3 years, and they have failed. And, you know, if they walk like a duck, they quack like a duck.
Yes.
And if they have been failing then, they have been failing now,
they will continue
bet your bottom
to fail.
dollar, they will continue to fail. So don't get carried away. Don't get mama guy by what they will throw at you, because yes, they will throw some goodies. Of course, they're fighting for their survival, and they will try to make work here and there. They will try to patch a road here and there. They will try to give a grant here and there to bribe you into support. But really and truly, that would only last for a short time, because as soon as they get back your votes, if you make the mistake, they will go back into their normal shell where they discard you, they turn off their phones, they ignore you, they chastise you for calling them.
Yeah.
Remember when the secretary tells somebody, "Gish you a break"?
Yeah. We had that up tonight.
So
that was one of the clips.
I hope that people remember to tell that secretary when she starts to walk and canvass and campaign for your vote to give you all your break too.
Exactly.
I hope all you remember when the secretary told all that she need a break from the people that she was elected to serve.
Oh Lord, I am just going through the list of things we have here. And I remember when the Secretary of Tourism made a bold statement that we'll have, 100,000 visitors in 1 year?
Well, with this Secretary of Tourism, she changes the definition of a tourist overnight. She has her own Webster dictionary, and she redefines what I know a tourist is supposed to be. Because remember when she took all the numbers of persons coming on cruise ships, whether they came off or
she didn't
not.
Care.
She lumped everybody, and then she tapped herself on the back and clapped herself and said she brought record number of tourists to the island. What utter dishonesty when these tourists, the majority of them, did not come off the ship, and rather than do the kind of interrogation, the kind of analysis to really understand why 2,000 people coming on a cruise ship, but we are only getting 800 people coming off. Is it that we need to treat with our product in terms of the activities we are offering, the on-island experience? How and why even when they come off across the Caribbean, what you are seeing is the lowest average spend? Because I understand a tourist on average coming off a cruise ship is expected to spend about $120 per destination. But in Tobago, the average spend of a tourist coming off of the cruise ship is about $40 to $50, which tells me that we are not creating enough value-added product to ensure that we make the tourists who is coming want to spend. Because if tourists have the appetite to spend, but perhaps they are not seeing enough variety of items to make them actually spend. And therefore, that is the kind of analysis that should be taking place, rather than boasting and fudging for the figures and feeling like you have done something when you have done absolutely nothing, because the real value in tourism is in the pockets of the persons who are stakeholders, who are in the business of offering services in the tourism industry. So if those persons aren't making money, if those persons aren't able to see the spin-off effects, then you're really failing. And that is what is happening in this space at this time.
Again, minority leader, and before we go into the core, remember when TADCO was an actual asset to farmers? Remember when farmers actually came on the media and said that they had no problems before with TADCO? All of their produce would be taken off their hands. Remember when TADCO actually benefited Tobago?
Well, the thing is, you have to look at policy. So straight up, and the beauty about this opportunity is that Tobagonians finally have something to compare the PNM to. And when you do the comparison in every facet, people are telling you, my life was better then under the PNM than it is now.
Every sector saying
look at TADCO and the farmers, the experience. When TADCO ran that program during COVID to feed hundreds of Tobagonians, you know who provided the produce to TADCO? It was Tobago-based farmers supplying chickens, supplying all the vegetables and fruits. It was Tobagonians. compare that to what happened when TATCO under this administration decided to do that same food box program. The majority of the produce came from a company called Novo in Trinidad.
Yeah.
And you would remember when the farmers had to make all kind of noise, including their own supporters. What's this man, the farmer from up in Goodwood?
Yes,
there? Right? Had to make Mr. Murray make all kind of noise, go on Channel 5 and updates and make all kind of bacchanal. And so they finally tried to hush them up. Remember when the PNM would have put in already in train the farmland program? That farmland program was to be able to provide arable lands to Tobago farmers so that they can get a land bank, a land base to grow food, to produce food.
Yeah.
You know what happened? This administration shut that down. Remember when PNM was putting priority money into the Agricultural Access Road program?
Yes.
What has happened to that Agricultural Access Road program, which was opening up a lot of the lands that are far in the east and the north of Tobago, Goldsboro, up inside and the
Mills Trace, all the way to Palatuvia,
all over.
Access to everywhere.
Making it easier for farmers who were going into those areas that were inaccessible before, making it accessible by vehicle. So you now had roads that could take you right to your farm and make you able to take your produce out and get it down to TATCO. Because that was the mandate of TATCO. TATCO was brought amalgamating the three former companies, to ensure that you can bring some level of predictability to farmers. So farmers now had a sure market at an agreed price. So all you had to do was produce. And once you produce, you knew that all your produce will be taken up and you were getting your pay within a relatively timely time frame. And what happened thereafter? We saw a runaway renegade chairman came in.
You don't even want to say the whole board, just the chairman.
No, it's the chairman. Runaway renegade chairman come in and turn this whole institution upside down, sending home all the workers. Imagine that in one go.
Fire everybody.
Heartless. Many of them women, many of them single mothers, and the same chief secretary who would have given assurances to these workers turn his back on these workers. So I'm wondering if these workers, when time comes to also determine whether to put back this chief secretary and his administration, if they will support them, given the fact that when they needed them, they turned their backs on them.
Turn away and walk away.
Because I know for a fact many of those workers supported. In fact, some of them even campaigned for this administration.
Up and down.
Yet the payback to that was that you were being sent home, bread taken off your table, and you are without a job.
Minority Leader, remember when freedom of speech existed, where persons could have come, ventilate their opinions, and go back tomorrow morning in their jobs, and had no victimization. Nobody wasn't calling you to their office. Nobody wasn't threatening you. You could have made comments on Facebook. And then we saw our chief secretary actually indicate that those of you who are on Facebook, your fake profiles and otherwise, all you're talking, what we will just do is fire some all you, and we don't care if all you cry.
Yeah.
Remember when leadership was compassionate?
And I
respected elderly.
No, but you know what Tobagonians have to remember is the promise, the initial promise from this chief secretary. I remember when he told both contract workers, he gave them a commitment: you will not lose your jobs. And so a lot of people felt comfortable voting for them, believing that whether the government, the administration change or not, my job will be saved.
And your
I would be,
contract.
and my contract would be safe.
Yeah.
And for the most part, these people continue to perform. So there was no real justification for sending him home. But yet the chief secretary made an about turn and labeled many of these same people political hires. As a matter of fact, I understand the industrial court wants the chief secretary to define this word political hires, because where the industrial court is asking where in the contracts of these people is the term political mentioned, and the Tobago House of Assembly at this time cannot find a clause in the contract where these people who we sent to home as political hires had any contract that said they were politically hired. So it just shows the wickedness of this chief secretary and his administration. And you remember when he also gave the contractors the commitment that he don't care if all they do the roads properly, if all they do the work.
We have to get back them videos.
Remember when he said it doesn't matter.
He said it don't matter.
But we would pay all that. Because
you don't
if
have
you
to
do
be afraid.
Because if you do the job, you get paid. And up to this day, you're seeing the contractors. Some of them have been partially paid. And for those who are lying on the live and saying that people get paid for incomplete jobs, you heard the chief secretary said for himself, they would only pay if verifiable work. They will verify the work and they will pay. And if you're saying that is for jobs done before this new administration, then the secretary and the chief secretary have a fiduciary obligation, if such exists, to do what is necessary to recover the public funds. So if you are saying that if the Secretary of Infrastructure continues to come to you and tell you he has evidence that persons were paid for for incomplete job, and he has not done anything to treat with that matter, then he himself
should be fired.
Is culpable and needs to be fired. Because if there are evidence to prove that any contractor received payment for an incomplete job, then there are legal recourse for that. And therefore the secretary, rather than coming and posting things on his Facebook page, ought to do his work.
Wow. That was our segment.
Remember when. And folks, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to deal with an issue that is heart-rending, that I'm sure there's public outcry throughout Tobago about as we head into this season called Heritage. Stay locked on, and we'll be right back.
Notice is hereby given that the 63rd Annual General Meeting, AGM, of the Bethel Credit Union Cooperative Society Limited will take place using a hybrid format on Thursday, June 27th from 5 p.m. The physical location will be upstairs the Mount Marie branch office. The purpose of the meeting is to receive minutes of the 62nd Annual General Meeting, to receive reports as follows: statutory and board-appointed committees, report of the auditor and audited financial statements, to receive budgetary proposals for 2024, to elect officers, to approve general resolutions, and lastly to transact any other business that may properly come before the meeting. A digital copy of the AGM brochure is available on the website. Please visit our website at www.bethelcredituniontt.com or any one of our branches for further information.
Sun Up Tobago is here. Join us on Saturday, July 6th from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Delta Compound Argyle for an unforgettable summer experience. Enjoy an all-inclusive experience with mouth-watering food, coolers are allowed, and best island vibe. This is a tickets-only event. Get your tickets now at Barco, Lus, and Pablo's Argyle. Don't miss out on the event of the summer. Sun Up Tobago, sponsored by Tobago Updates, B-Mobile, State Solutions, and Thorns Place.
Look at people in here tonight.
The countdown is on to the Tobago Public Service Day Expo 2024. Join us on July 5th at the Shore Park Complex to discover the dynamic world of public service where innovation meets dedication. Explore exciting careers, experience innovative services, enjoy interactive displays, and a whole lot more. Come join us on July 5th at the Shore Park Complex from 9:30 a.m. Visit the Office of the Chief Secretary's Facebook page for details. Tobago Public Service Day Expo 2024. Public service now and beyond.
The date has been set. Saturday, June 22nd, we head to the Jade Monkey once again for the launch of their 2024 Jufi and Mass Band presentation for Tobago Carnival. On Saturday, June 22nd, we gather at the Jade Monkey to get a glimpse of the Jade Monkey Mass presentation for 2024, the Tobago Festival, and also the launch of the Jade Monkey Jufi, Monkey See, Monkey Do.
I come from the Twin Island.
Get ready for another year of Tobago Carnival with the best band in Tobago, Jade Monkey Mass and the Jade Monkey Jufi. So come out on June 22nd as we launch Monkey See, Monkey Do Jufi, and for Tobago Mass, the Tobago Festival's presentation brought to you by the Jade Monkey. This one powered by Carib, Digicel, and Next 99.1 FM, a member of the TTT Limited Media Network. Jade Monkey.
Go down in the center, go down.
Back here in the studio, and I mean the place on fire. We know all of Tobago, people messaging, people private messaging, people calling. We can answer the phone on set. The studio just on fire right now. We just remember when segment.
Before you go any further, I have one more remember when. Yeah, can I get it?
Sure. Where we going?
Remember when you promised me that lovely mango across there?
Well, sure. You know, I picked this off the tree and have it all day just waiting. I wouldn't forget. In the same
don't be like the QTP. Yeah?
Minority Leader, in the same spirit of joy and celebration as we could celebrate mango season coming. Nice Julie mango. You know, we had a massive signal that was sent last night. And I remember some persons who try to start a narrative about what will happen to PNM in Trinidad and PNM dead and PNM this. Mr. Director, pull that flyer up for me, please. Pull up the flyer. Like we pulling up the flyer from downstairs, man.
No, but one of the things there, and you see, Dr. Williams, you have to give him he was a real visionary.
Yeah.
Even in the selection of the symbol, the balisé. The balisé is one of those plants that survive, most resilient. You could cut it down. Yeah. And before you know it, it springs up back, and it springs up even more.
Burn it.
Yeah, you could burn it, after 8 years in the wilderness in Lengua Indian Walk, the balisé has prevailed.
Great is the PNM.
And so I want to personally congratulate Councillor-elect Pastor Otley Grantune, a man of God, a man that would have walked in faith and a man that when given a second opportunity,
Yes.
would have took that opportunity with both hands and brought that district to the loving, caring hands of the People's National Movement, and that really signals a positive sign for the People's National Movement in Moruga come next year or whenever that time comes, because that seat is a seat that was previously held by the United National Congress.
And then last year it was a tie.
And then it was a tie. And then the beauty about it increased by over 600 votes.
Yeah.
So he was, not only did he win, but he basically won by a landslide in this instance. And so I really want to congratulate the candidate, Pastor Ortley Grant-Hume. I want to also congratulate the team led by Honorable Paula Gopi-Schoon, who I saw minister working so hard down there, and
she's
so I can just imagine the level of elation, the level of satisfaction and celebration. Gratification. So I want to give kudos, and I want to commend and congratulate the entire team and congratulate the People's National Movement, because what has transpired there is a reflection of people recognizing the work that this government is doing on behalf of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. So notwithstanding the naysayers, people understand. You see a prime minister, and I want to take 5 minutes from this report and just segue into what is happening at the national level. And I have so much admiration for the prime minister, along with Minister Stuart Young and the rest of the cabinet for what they are doing. This is a government that is really focused on achieving the best for the country and the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and not only for today, but securing a future for generations to come. When you look at the work being done and the platform being laid, the Prime Minister going out, and this is a Prime Minister who can justify his travel, because the proof is in the eating, and you are seeing it. The Prime Minister went recently to Ghana and to India, and within 2 to 3 weeks, you have delegations coming from both foreign investors, serious investors coming, committing to investment into Trinidad and Tobago towards a diversification thrust that can take us, some of it is within the oil and gas sector, but different aspects of the oil and gas sector. And then you're seeing now into manufacturing, into even tourism, where the Prime Minister said, and agriculture. And we look forward to that delegation coming to Tobago to look at prospective plans and projects and the sites that can be developed into tourism, accommodation, and products, because that is what Tobago desperately needs at this time if we are to compete with the other islands. Because when you look at what is happening in the other destinations, whereas we are telling people to just simply go and fix up a bed and breakfast or fix up an apartment, what you are seeing is that destinations are getting serious about improving their room stock. As far as I understand, even as we speak, Grenada is now on the verge of getting a second Sandals. And I just use the word Sandals because you are seeing, and that Sandals is going to go in Carriacou, and it's going to be an upscale. So people paying
the high end,
$3,000 and $4,000 and $5,000 a night. So you could imagine when you have persons like that coming into your space. One, they fly in front of the plane, so it makes it more attractive for the airlines. And then two, they are coming into your space with the kind of income that can really redound to the benefit of the citizen. And when people are spending that kind of money, it means that the persons who are working in those places are going to be well paid as well. So this is the kind of focus and the development and the leadership and the vision that we are seeing from our Tobago boy, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, and we really want to commend him for his leadership, for his focus, and even for his passion for Tobago, because when you hear the conviction in which he is committed to ensuring that that Marriott project, which the minority supports as well, and we will at the consultation, and we will continue to be a strong voice of support to that project, because we understand where Tobago needs to go with its tourism product.
Minority Leader, let me also remind you, Moody's has given Trinidad a stable rating. It's no longer touch and go, it's stable.
Correct.
Do you remember when Tobago had a Moody's rating?
Exactly.
And then we lost it?
The Tobago's Moody's rating was always on par with the national rating.
Exactly.
What you are seeing, and I don't want to delve too much in it, but based on the numbers we have, because I heard the Chief Secretary indicating that they have stabilized the economy. And yes, you have stabilized the economy in a recession. So the economy has anchored in a recession.
Exactly.
That is the reality.
Nice.
So yes, it has been stably recessed and reversed and regressed. That is what we have done.
Exactly.
The economy has stably regressed because we continue consistently to record declining
consistently
gross
every year.
Every year, year on year, it is a consistent decline in the Tobago economy, while the national economy is showing a consistent increase. So clearly it is about leadership. And as they say, ultimately, everything rises and falls on leadership.
Well said, well put. So folks, we thank you for staying with us through that Remember When segment. And again, congratulations to Pastor Utley on a well-deserved victory. Congratulations to the People's National Movement on gaining significant ground in an area, lingua, and Indian walk, which has traditionally been controlled by the opposition UNC. And it speaks volumes to the fact that don't listen to the naysayers, don't listen to those who just come in and trying to spread their propaganda. But Minority Leader, back to Tobago. Now, I know that all of Tobago, there are certain things that Tobagonians hold very dear. One of those things is harvest. They don't play with the harvest. As a matter of fact, recently we saw almost an all-out war between Delaford and Roxborough. So harvest is something that is very sacred in Tobago. Another thing that is very sacred in Tobago is the heritage season. And I don't know if to cry or if to just be angry when I look at what is now passing for a heritage calendar. We've seen the decimation. Just like the construction sector, we now see festivals is in the same boat. What is going on with this boat, this vessel that seems to just anchor Tobago? Tobago cannot move forward.
Well, it appears to me that everything, especially in the division of tourism, and I mean nothing personal against the secretary, but everything that this secretary touches just seems to wither.
Wither away.
And that is the reality. We've seen it with the National Carnival in February. That has now been basically disseminated. It has been destroyed. We have seen that with the Tobago Jazz. That has been destroyed. And now, unfortunately, this thing that J.D. Elder would have conceptualized and left as a gift to the people of Tobago, this clueless secretary seems to be on the verge of also destroying that festival as well. And, you know, a lot of it, based on what I'm seeing, some of it is pettiness, some of it is bad mind, some of it is immaturity, some of it is selfishness, some of it is mismanagement, and some of it is just poor leadership. And the proof is there. If you do the comparison in 2019, that is just a couple years ago, we were having almost all the villages and all the festivals. So key, the festivals that were staples on the calendar, all those festivals were taking place in 2019. So with the exception of perhaps the Belmana riots, which was usually in Roxborough, you would have seen Wake and Bongo, Natural Treasure, of course, Old Time Wedding, games we used to play, or Goat and Crab Race, because that is something is rich in. All those festivals were happening. Folklore and superstition, table piece, that was one of the must-see. That is sponsored by Republic Bank. Right? That is something people look forward to every year, just as how you look. There are some must-see events. You see Mariah Old Time Wedding. The Salaka Feast, Pembroke Salaka Feast. Of course, you must go Charlottesville for Natural Treasures Day. And then when you go across Lecker too, that was, and there was a time even when the Wake and Bongo was one of those staples as well, because it really encapsulates the rich Tobago tradition. And when we say she becomes more beautiful, it means that as the culture, as you immerse yourself in the culture and you understand our rich heritage, you get a greater appreciation for your Tobago-ness. And sadly, the Tobago-ness is being eroded. The flavor is being taken out. And if you look at this watered down calendar, it makes you worry, it makes you concerned. And this is not any disrespect to anybody involved in the planning, because I know there's a lot of hard work that is going on. And I know there are a lot of experience in the background. But what this calendar reflects, it is a watered down version to what we come to know as it. And that is no disrespect to anyone, because the other issue, before we get into the real looking at the challenges, one of the things, because I was talking to one of the icons, one of the few remaining living legends of our culture in Tobago. And, that person was explaining to me how they arrive at this calendar and so forth. And what stood out to me, and I think she eventually admitted, because we had the back and forth about, some of the events that came off. Because she thought naturally that I was just being critical, but I was explaining to her that what we expect is that as we grow and as the heritage, you ought to see it improve, more communities getting involved, more things happening.
The calendar.
And therefore, if you're seeing communities that are custom putting on a performance and withdrawing, then it tells me something is wrong. And I reluctantly, I got the person to admit that all may not be well, and there are some gaps and there are some challenges, and therefore it is for us all to work with those challenges. And one of the challenges we have is the fact that the icons, the persons who are there really, who knows the traditions, and that they are few and far between, and they are quite aged at this time, and therefore we need to move with some level of urgency to ensure that we preserve, we able to get out from them the information and then have it preserved, have it stored and retained in a way that others can be able to benefit and take it on and carry it on, because we have lost a number of persons. I remember, if you look at Tambrin, there was this gentleman in Bakilwim. It was so much years ago, but Mr. Louis, and Mr. Louis was a real tambourine man. And I'm not so sure how much of the tambourine has been passed on from the making of the tambourine, where you have it over your coconut branch, dry coconut branch, and have it heated there with and you warm up your tambourine and all. I'm not too sure how much of that has been passed on. When you look at even recently, we lost Axe Back.
Axe Back.
That was a big loss. I'm not sure how much of it. I know he
we
wrote a
lost
couple
about
books.
3 icons back
He
to
wrote a
back.
couple books, so thankfully we may be able to get something from the books, but I'm not too sure how much was actually through oral traditions passed on.
Yeah.
And therefore, these are the kind of concerns I have outside of the fact that it is clear that under the secretary, she just does not have the capacity, and she just perhaps doesn't understand nor appreciate what needs to be done.
Remember, she was the one who said that she don't have anybody to work with her. She said that she has a lot of ideas, but she don't have anybody to work with her.
But the point is, and as I said, so this is the second heritage that we are seeing being mismanaged. And if we continue down that road, notwithstanding we have good people in the behind the scenes trying to help it, trying to prop it up. If we continue on the trajectory that we are going, this thing that we call Tobago heritage that we all love and look forward to each year will face. So we have to be clear about what we are doing. We have to be clear about what needs to be addressed. We have the people. I have absolutely no doubt that we have the people, but we need to move away from the pettiness. There's too much pettiness in this place and this space right now. The administration that is running Tobago, they are too immature. So I don't have to like you to work with you. All I have to do is appreciate your skills, your value, and your professionalism. And utilize that, because ultimately we all supposed to be about building Tobago and building out what Tobago have, that Tobago can leverage to the world. And there are many persons I know in spaces waiting and willing and hoping they can contribute. But those persons aren't being engaged for one reason or the other. Some are being branded as PNM. Some are just being discarded because they didn't say the right thing. Some are even being branded because they may like a post that is PNM.
Exactly.
It is that petty. And
that is, remember when you could not say anything on Facebook?
So I am calling on the secretary. It is not too late. And this is you kill jazz, right? And this heritage is too near and dear to Tobagonians for us to watch it crumble, for us to watch it die a natural death. And therefore, I'm calling on the powers that be right now to allow those persons in the background who have the knowledge and who have the institutional memory, allow them to come forward and be able to participate in the space so that we can protect and that we can preserve Tobago's heritage for all future generations to come.
Wow. Minority Leader, just looking at the calendar here, I mean, I would have a few questions as well to the powers that be, because I'm seeing here, apart from the fact it's significant, there's no opening night. We see it replaced with a Thanksgiving service. But some interesting additions are bachelor night.
Well, I want to say something, and this is why I tell you there's a lack of understanding, because I don't know if you're aware, Mr. David, but the opening night is a key component to the heritage show. In fact, that is if you do the analysis outside of the Mariah Heritage, which is almost a free program, the opening night is one of the most lucrative programs outside of the pageant show. That where you have you have Trinidadians that come
out.
That opening night traditionally is one of the most patronized nights. And in fact, one that really sets the tone, as you say. In fact, that is a show by itself. In fact, that used to really highlight the production, used to kind of foreshadow what is to come in the various. So you're getting a snapshot, a taste. It is to whet your appetite so that you are now excited to go out and see what the actual communities are doing. And therefore, it is quite sad. In fact, it is a disservice to the heritage to not have an opening night. And the secretary must explain, Tobagonians, we are accepting too many wrongs. Too many things are happening in this space, and we are just sitting back and we are shooing in a little corner, and we're not speaking out.
People are afraid of being victimized.
No, but victimized is one thing, but at the end of the day, because when we stay quiet, it allows them to believe that what they're doing, worse will continue.
When better can be done,
worse will continue.
Exactly.
And therefore, it requires us to start to stand up for something.
Yeah.
How could we allow a calendar of events to come out and there is no opening night and there's no justification? Is it funding? What is really the reason why we are not having an opening production? Because that is part and parcel, a fundamental component of the Tobago heritage. What is the reason? What is the justification? Why does a secretary believe that she can so fundamentally change the calendar and does not engage with the stakeholders?
No public consultation.
There's no stakeholder engagement, no explanation.
Nothing. But Minority Leader, remember, is the same approach she took with the carnival. Remember, she removed the Kiddies Carnival till it ended up with a protest by tourism, and no justification was given for it. There is nothing that no rational explanation. Here we see again.
And the thing is, so the minority, I know people assigned a slogan, one is enough. And yes, that might be true in some instances. But all of us speaking in one voice is even more powerful.
Much more.
All Tobagonians speaking for right, where right is right and wrong is wrong, is more powerful. And therefore, Tobagonians, whether you support the administration or you don't, we need to simply start holding this administration accountable. It cannot be the job for Kelvon and Petal alone or the PNM. But this has to be a Tobago fight. That's where we simply
all of Tobago approach.
Tobago first. And if I, as a minority leader and all, you find me stepping out, you feel free to call me out. But it cannot be that you only have mouth for the minority leader who does not run the administration, but the people who actually have your future in their hands and making a mess of the island. You're watching them run this place right down to the ground. And because you support them, you're not going to say anything. That cannot be it.
Well, I believe to Minority Leader, a lot of persons are shamed right now. And because of the decision that they made to support this administration and are quietly waiting for the opportunity to right the wrong that they did.
Yeah, but it cannot be, you see, we cannot just simply rely on an election to right the wrong, because while we're waiting on an election, this island, I'm telling you, Tobagonians, you may not, some of you are seeing it, some of you are feeling it, but not all of you are feeling it in the way that some others are. And therefore, you may believe that we have time. But there are certain decisions being made at this time that are critical and in some instances detrimental, have long-term effects. Because, for example, as much as you hear us talking about them spiriting away $300 million, do you know that that $300 million that they have already put into those roads, that is borrowed money, in fact, deferred payments? So it means, therefore, that not all of that $300 million is being paid up front. It means that couple administrations and couple years going down the road, we will have to find money to pay for those road projects. And you continue to hear me worried, scared, and reminding you what is going on at Storbay Local Road is pure waste and simply about putting money into contractors' pocket so that it can come back to a few Tobagonians.
Yeah.
Because when you look at that road project, one, as I indicated, that project was already part of of the airport connector road project that would take you from Cove all the way down to the airport and would have been funded by the central government. this administration decided, no, we will do it on our own. And they went about it bad.
Why?
Because they did not get the requisite approvals. They then entered and impeded and encroached on people's land. And that now is going to cost us another great amount of monies. So at the end of the day, that project, which they had estimated to be $65 million, is now going to cost us upwards to $100 and something million.
Yeah.
And that is $100 and something million that they do not currently have. So it means that down the road, every year, they would have to suppress something to pay for that road. And that suppress something might be your job. That suppress something might be medication for the hospital. That suppress something might be them giving a grant to somebody who needs to have their roof changed. That suppress something might be the mother who is hungry, doesn't have enough to feed her children, and goes to the Division of Health and asks for a grant, and they're saying, we cannot give you a grant because we just don't have the funding. That is
food card.
That is all the things that this administration is supposed to do for the people of Tobago that now will be, those things would have to be put on the back burner, right? To now fund this wasteful, and let me hold up. I wouldn't say wasteful because the road ultimately will use the road. But the funding, because there's always an opportunity cost to whatever we do. There could have been a better alternative. And I'm saying, I am putting it on record that the better alternative would have been to collaborate with the central government, get the road built, and you still have funding to do many more things that you have not yet done, including finishing those projects that we have started, that continues to just watch us as eyesores. I drove up to the east today, and while driving up, I turned in dismay and sadness looking at the Goodwood Pavilion. Lord. Because here you are, here it is, you have a building almost halfway built.
Yes.
And it was just stopped. Backlit, you just watching poles of iron.
Just the frame.
Just stopped. And then you had even, I don't know if the people of Charlottesville understand that we were on the verge of building or fixing the Turping Bend once and for all. Yeah. And that risk to commuters and villagers still remain because you have an administration that is just wicked, vindictive, and doesn't realize that governance is a continuum.
Yeah.
And it's about taking the baton, understanding the race, and then start to run.
And in addition to that, minority leader, not just an administration they have a representative who has abdicated his responsibility. 8 years as representative for that district. 8 years, and nothing he has done. The first term, he complained that his hands were tied. The second term, he can't even finish a pavilion in his district. And I want to throw this out.
One more, because I've been visiting Roxborough, and I must say, I really want to commend the staff and the leadership of that Roxborough hospital facility. I've been there. The service is as good as any in Tobago and the country. And you have some really good health professionals up there. And I'm saying to myself, if you have all this system in place, you have a hospital built to run 24 hours. What is stopping this administration
for the people of the East
from ensuring that the people of the East does not only be restricted to quality health service for a restricted time, but be able to access that service any time of the day? And I really want to, because based on the information, based on all that I've learned, I've spoken to people at UDCOT, they have assured me that the facility have all that is required to operate as a 24-hour service facility. That I was told that the issue where the secretary is saying, well, they have no place for the doctors to stay and the doctors' quarters and all. They say that is absolute hogwash because even Sandy Grande doesn't have one, and in Tobago of all places, which is so small. You telling me You can't get from whether you're staying in town to country within an hour. You don't need any medical quarters to ensure that you stay there 24/7. You can go where you have to go and return when you have to return.
What about being on call?
And that's what I'm saying.
That's how our hospital
that
functions.
is how our hospital functions. So there's absolutely those excuses are absolutely
just that. Excuses
and hogwash, and basically a cop-out for the secretary not having the ability. We heard Dr. Carrington was here and she broke it down. I don't think anybody could have done a better job of explaining what that facility was created to be and what it should have been for the people of the East. And I keep saying, I cry shame on the Honorable Chief Secretary, who is a man from Speyside, and even more shame on the Secretary of Health, who is a woman from right in Belgarden. And I cry shame even on the current representative, because if it was a PNM administration, Mr. Watson Duke, he would have been up and down the place, because when it was good and when it was nice, he was claiming that he brought it in. He caused the PNM. Imagine that.
He forced the PNM to build it.
It's he who bring the hospital there. PNM only build it because of him. So how come you can't now get your colleagues who you put in office to ensure that this hospital is now is operating as it was meant to be, which is a 24/7 facility for the benefit of the people of Far East and even North side. Tobago.
And Minority Leader, you said something there that make me, this is the final remember that I want to remember. I want the people of Tobago to remember that the present state that we are in, the mismanagement, the lies, the incompetence, is Watson Solomon Duke responsible for that. He is the one that brought this team to Tobago and said to Tobago, you could trust them.
Well, he reminds me of we just celebrated Father's Day, but you know, we have some fathers that don't take up the responsibility,
delinquent.
Right? And he reminds me of a delinquent father that just foist these people on Tobago and then abandon the team and abandon Tobagonians, and now have we in this mess.
Us in this mess.
As we close, there's one issue I really cannot leave with that really needs some attention, and it's a message I received, and I think it has been in the public domain now for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And that is treating with some HR issues at the Tobago Regional Health Authority. And that further really puts it encapsulates what has been this administration that doesn't care for process. They don't even care about people. Because here it is, a process was engaged for daily paid employment. 40 young people engaged, interviewed, and these young people would have gone through this interview process. After they went through that interview process and was successful, they were called. Apparently, they even took their measurements,
full works,
and were preparing for orientation. It meant that persons now had to go to their place of employ and inform them, as is proper protocol. You give them advance notice that I received an alternative employment and I will be resigning. So persons actually sent in their resignations from their jobs. So and only lo and behold, to be calling almost on a daily basis, some of them visiting, only to be told, we are working on it, we are working on it, we are working on it.
False expectations.
While these people are being given the runaround, one morning, they get the news that the TRHA, prompted by those in leadership, both at the level at the board and otherwise, would have abandoned that process. So all those young people with all their expectation abandoned that process, and they have now engaged 11 people absolutely no process. Other than that, you know somebody, and somebody, because you know the somebody, they engage you throughout the 40 people who went through a process. Because that is the critical issue here. The process.
The process.
You had 40 people going through a process, interviewed, successful, uniform size taken, ready to work. In fact, some of them resigned their previous employment and are now home. Excited. And now are left disappointed because the TRHA abandoned the process, abandoned these people throughout their expectations, their legitimate expectation to be called out, and they have hired new people without a process. And I want to ask you, Tobagonians, even you on the live who does not support me nor the PNM, if you think that is fair. That is all I would ask you.
Exactly.
And if you think that is fair, well, you are free to defend that.
Wow. Minority leader is so much that we constantly see, and there's so much more that we could say tonight. But as usual, we're never out of words, we're never out of content. But sadly, we are out of time. And the sad thing is that by next week, we may not even get the opportunity to continue with this, because we know we have a next set of
So as we go, just
blunders.
the PNM Sports and Family Day this Sunday. Well, it starts on Saturday with some preliminary activities, and then Sunday is the big day. So we encourage those of you in Tobago who can make your way down to Skinner Park to join us there, where we gather as the PNM family in love and harmony, and we will have a grand time.
Definitely. And folks, we want to say thank you for staying with us. We want to thank those of you who spend the entire night on the live, even talking to us while the program was going on. It's good to see that so many people, minority leader, watch the show.
We appreciate the views.
Yes, we appreciate it.
We are in a free society. Once you stay respectful, you're free to provide your alternative facts, your alternative views.
Exactly.
And while we may not agree, we can agree to disagree.
What is good is that you all stay on for the full hour and a half,
it tells,
so that you get information.
It tells me they also have an appreciation that we are consistent. Because the other side started a program, and that program is now non-existent. So
that is non-disclosure.
Yeah, so at least you have something that you can look forward to every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
And it is about education, it is about edification, and it's about enlightenment.
Exactly. So folks, we're going to go out, having done an excellent program. We're going to go out with a bit of jubilation and celebration as we once again congratulate Pastor Otley and the team led by Minister Paula Gopi-Skoon on an outstanding victory. That is a clear signal to all and sundry that the PNM is alive and well in Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Director, just pull that clip and let's go out with that clip this evening. Let's see how this victory was celebrated last night into this morning.
We coming to the bus train.